everyone. I'm Denise. Welcome to Bite Your Tongue, the podcast. Thanks for joining us as we speak with experts, authors, parents, and even young adults to explore the transition from parenting our young children to building healthy relationships with our now adults, and of course, when to bite our tongues. We're so happy you're with us, so let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bite Your Tongue, the podcast. As they say, the best laid plans. Things for this episode could not have gone more sideways. I headed to Prague to both visit Ellen and record an episode about her new book, Bright Kids Who Couldn't Care Less. As many of you know, Ellen splits her time between Prague and Boston, and many of our podcasts are recorded with Ellen in Prague and me in Denver. Well, Ellen's plans to head to Prague from Boston went haywire when she tested positive for COVID. I headed to Prague without Ellen. She thought she might be able to come once she tested negative, but then her mother took a bad fall and she had to head to Wisconsin to help her mother. So after years of planning to be with each other in Prague, I ended up 10 days in Prague in Ellen's apartment without her. We both could not believe this happened. So I knew I had to drop an episode, and I thought, I've got nothing planned but my interview with Ellen. What should I do? And I realized as I was walking the streets of Prague, I could interview young people on the street. So I started interviewing young adults and parents from around the world on the streets of Prague. I had earlier interviewed kids and parents in Central Park in New York City, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to hear some of the similarities and differences? I learned pretty quickly that this whole struggle with parents and their adult kids is a global phenomenon. It's interesting to hear the young adult perspective and the parents. You'll hear from people from New Zealand, Great Britain, Germany, and many other places. I hope you enjoy this. I apologize for the background noise, but these are street interviews, so that's how it is. Let us know what you think. So here I am in Prague, at the Lenin Wall outside of, Kampa Island. And I met these two young fellas from New Zealand. And I started to talk to them about their relationship with their parents. So you can say your name or not, but what works for you? You're from New Zealand. How many siblings do you have, first of all?
Hey, my name's Mac. I'm 25 from New Zealand. So I've got one older brother and three, one older brother biologically, and then three step siblings. Two of them are girls and one's a man. So yeah, with my parents, at this age, I think the best advice I could give is just not being too pushy and just understanding. So I've come up to the other side of the world, and my mum just said the only advice she gave me was just don't get too drunk so you can remember it, and just look after your belongings. I think that if you just not overcomplicate it, but have too higher expectations and your kids don't meet them, then it's not nice for anyone.
Thank you. Okay, now we have his friend. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm Jack. I'm from New Zealand, 25.
How many siblings do you have?
I've got a twin brother and an older sister.
Twin brother. Okay, yeah. Okay.
When I came back from uni, I found living at home with my parents quite difficult, going from total freedom to sort of restrictions a lot. But I feel like when I go flatting in New Zealand, I get along much better with my parents, just sort of seeing them once a week.
You just see them once a week while you're
there? Yeah, you go around for dinner at their house once a week.
Do they ask a lot of questions? Do you feel like they're judgmental at all, or are they concerned about your future, like your work and those sort of things? Like in America, we sort of are a little bit of what are you doing? How's your job? Are you in a relationship? Do you get a lot of that stuff or not?
I get a bit of that stuff, but I mean, I've got a job, I've got a girlfriend. Oh. They're not too worried, so...
Would you want them to tell you if they didn't like the girlfriend?
Yes, they have in the past, but I sort of
just
try and push it to the side, yeah. But I mean, obviously their opinion's always valid, to a degree.
Yeah, someone said the voice of your parents is sometimes like a microphone in your head. Mm-hmm. You don't want to hear it, but you hear it. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, sometimes. But my parents are quite relaxed anyway, so I find it pretty easy, and I find going to different ones for different things, so... Something more serious, I talk to my dad, and mum's a bit more irrational. So sort of having to, I guess, navigate that growing up and getting, more serious decisions and things like that. But they try and push their opinion on me a little bit, but know how to be constructive as well, which really helps, I say.
Great. Thanks so much, guys. Have a wonderful trip.
You too.
So I'm still at the Lenin Wall. I ended up having a Sharpie, and I got a lot of friends with my Sharpie because we all signed the Lenin Wall. But I'm here with these really two lovely young ladies from Germany, and I sort of was asking them, the first question I said was, do your parents bug you at all? And the one woman I'm going to talk to first said, yeah, a lot. So tell us why.
So in the past, it was kind of a struggle to communicate with my parents because they would tend to not listen to me and really have their expectations, how they want me to be, how they want me to get education and stuff. And I always tried to really fit with that.
To please them?
To please them a lot. And then at some point I stopped, and then their reaction was quite tough. So that was a big struggle. We had a lot of fights. And then when I did my A-levels, I moved to Ireland for a couple of months. So we didn't see each other. And when I came back, it was a lot more relaxed. I think I learned how I want to create my own life, how I want to not create...
Your independence.
Yeah, how what I want in life. I really had some time in the lockdown in Ireland to think all the things through. And yeah, when I set my boundaries and I moved in another city, so I moved out of home, some things got really better. And at this point now, they like to be around.
You like to be around them now? Or they like to be around
They like the space I give them in my life.
Right.
They appreciate it. But when there are things where we don't have the same opinion, we can talk about it.
Do you feel like they're learning to respect you as an adult now?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
So when I think the time apart really helped us, helped them to accept that I'm now a grown woman and make my own decisions.
And how old are you?
I'm 22.
22.
Yes.
And so I want to ask one other question. How much financial involvement do parents in Germany have with their children? Do you depend on them at all financially, or do you sort of break away as soon as you go to school?
I think a lot of kids, when they go to the university, they're still dependent on their parents. Like, they have some budget they get from their parents to buy food or have their apartment. But for me, I do an apprenticeship or something.
Right. It's an internship,
an internship, and I want to study next year. So I'm completely financially independent. Yes.
And I think that probably gives you a little separation too.
Yes,
they don't
of course.
feel as much control because they're not paying for what you're doing.
It was always like when you wanted money for something in school, for a class trip or for some books or something, it was always connected with some expectations.
Right.
Everything is connected with expectation. Financially independent, it helps a lot, I think.
And that's not healthy to have that money held to an expectation, do you think?
No, I don't think so, because kids or students, they usually don't have their own money or a lot of it.
Right.
And some things are needed, like school books or trips. And I think these things shouldn't be connected with an expectation.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm coming over to you. Are you also 22?
No, I'm 24.
You're 24, so you're traveling with an older woman.
Don't say that.
I'm just kidding. So tell me how you feel. You heard a lot of what she had to say. Is there any advice you could give to parents as their kids become young adults to give them more space or not give? What would?
I mean, I can only speak for myself. I can relate to this. Mm-hmm. I've had great parents. I've had a nice childhood, but for me, in my childhood, it was always like my mom, like they were kind of getting divorced even when I was born. For me, that wasn't a problem, but in the end, it was very hard pleasing both of them. My dad is lovely. Like I've never had arguments with him or anything, but he stays like very low. He's happy with what he has. And my mom, she's like a butterfly. She tries to go everywhere and she does everything. And she tends to like, she wants her children to be what she didn't become. Not educational, but in like artistically, or she tries to educate us to get better than herself, because she's very unhappy with herself and her life, and she wants us to get the best life, but sometimes that's not the case.
But you can understand her feeling.
I can understand it, but that's a problem for me, because I can't make I can't cut the line. I can't separate 100%.
Right. Well, do you ever want to separate 100% really?
No, not 100%. I do love her, but
right.
enough. Yeah, get my life.
Do people in Germany worry about what other people think? Like, is she worried about what other people think of her children's accomplishments?
No, in that case, my mom is very supportive.
Supportive, okay.
She actually is not like the rest. She's like, yeah, just stop school, start your life, do what you love.
God bless her.
I love that about her. But,
okay, there's a big group coming, so we're going to scoot now. Where are you guys off to after Prague?
Back home.
Oh, back home.
For Easter.
For Easter. Well, have a wonderful trip, and thank you, and I'm so glad I had this Sharpie.
Yes, the Sharpie. That's so great.
That did it
That's
all.
such a good idea.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm in the store near the Lenin Wall. Tell us the name of the store.
Artisan.
Artisan. It's probably one of the most beautiful stores we've been in Prague. And I'm talking to a proprietor here who's absolutely darling. How old are you?
I'm 34 years old.
34. I would have guessed 24.
I get that a lot.
So tell me, if you had to give advice to parents on how to have better relationships with their adult children, what would you say?
I would say give them... there's few levels to it. I would say provide them with a safe platform so they feel safe in exploring certain things and the life as well, but also give them freedom. So kind of provide the safety net, but the freedom is a very important part of it as well, or at least it was for me. So, and I got it. I got maybe too much of a freedom. But
so you must have a good relationship with your parents.
I didn't used to have actually.
What were the years that were the toughest?
I would say the teenagers, the teenagers and early 20s. But then now I have a great relationship with my parents. I think we both grew. That was important. I think that I understood better as well, because now being the age I am, I cannot imagine having a kid at like early 20s. Like, I would be a terrible parent. So.
You're not married?
I'm not married,
You're
no.
Not married.
And but I think the safe environment is a good one, and safe, caring environment, and then freedom to explore, make mistakes, and not to be too hard.
It's hard as a parent to watch your kids make mistakes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Well, thank you. I know you need to get back to work. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay,
thank you very much. Bye-bye.
So, tell me a little bit about what it is to grow up and be a young adult in a Hispanic family.
I think there's a lot of responsibility. In what way? Just from an early age, I would say, you kind of brought up to think like we left our country to have a better future. That from an early age, like, you got to get an education, you got to find a good job. And then along with that, just, you learn your culture, and just with that, the strong family orientation that's kind of drilled into you.
You say that you grow up with this, but I remember when I knew you when you were very young, you were the first in the family really to graduate high school.
Yes.
And you told me a lot of your family, even today, were messing up and not finishing high school and not going to college, and even your family was one that was doing very well. What do you think your parents did that made a difference to you and your siblings doing so well?
The most important thing, I think it was just having an open communication with my parents. I remember sitting down with my father and telling me, look, I didn't have the opportunity that you have. And I think you should take it, just really take it, understand kind of what is involved in just having a simple high school education. And then from there, if you can go further, get a higher education, go for it. And if you want to keep getting a master's or a doctorate, as long as you just need to take that opportunity that not a lot of people have. And I think just knowing that value, the word, I think that's what got my siblings and I this far. Look at us, three college graduates,
and one starting high school. So, do you see yourself as an adult? And if you do, when did you feel like you were an adult?
when. I don't think there's a really set age where I was like, oh, I'm grown up.
When did you become financially responsible for yourself?
My first job.
Your first job. So when you got a first job, but you were living at home then. Were you paying rent?
Yeah, I helped out a little bit.
You did.
I helped out a little bit, helped out with bills and other miscellaneous things. I, paid my car insurance, my gas, basically took care of myself, but also, I wasn't paying so much in rent or bills, but that was something that my parents always said, as long as you live at home, yes, we will charge you a little bit just so you get used to having payments and paying your bills on time. But it's not going to be something significant where it's like most of your paycheck where you're not able to save a little bit or have fun. I've always been good with money. I've never been one who, spends it all. But it's when I actually learned, like, I earned this dollar bill and this is mine and I know the work that comes behind it.
Hi, so we're in Central Park and I'm speaking with a young woman. How many adult children do you have? One. How old is he or she?
23.
23. Okay, what are the best parts of having an adult child?
The independence and the fact that you don't have to be on top of them. They sort of have their own autonomy at this point.
And what are the hardest things? Do you ever have to bite your tongue?
All the time.
So give us a couple examples.
Well, they're very opinionated. They come from college, since mine is 23 years old, and they feel that they know everything. And they'll ask for your opinion, and when you give your opinion, they don't like what you have to say, and then they don't stop with their opinion. They will tell you, they will ram it down your throat until you actually eat it, okay? But other than that, now I just turn my head and I just, and I yes them to death because I know it's like a phase of a 2-year-old, okay, that says no all the time. So you just let them have it and you can say, oh, I see, I understand.
And do you think you were tough on your parents that way?
No, I was terrific, actually. I was rebellious in a different way. I mean, I was a daredevil and very athletic. No, I didn't do the things that he does. They have a lot of freedom of speech. We held our tongue. They don't hold anything.
Thank you so much. This was terrific. So I'm in Central Park talking to another woman that's a parent of an adult child. How many adult children do you have? One, a boy or a girl?
Girl.
And how old is she?
54.
Oh, 54. So you're way ahead of a lot of the people we're talking to. Were there tough years in the 20s and 30s? Were there ever times you had to bite your tongue?
Sure.
And why? Why did you feel that?
I just felt like going on and on would serve no purpose.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much. So how old are you?
I'm 36.
36. And is it tough being an adult child and sort of breaking free of your parents and their advice and that sort of thing?
I don't think so. I feel like I have a pretty healthy relationship with my parents. And like we've always just had like kind of a peer relationship, especially once I reached college age. So I think it's been pretty good.
And what do you think they've done that's been good like that? Because so many kids feel like their parents call, text too much, give them too much advice. What have they done? Or do you think they've built their own life so they aren't dependent on your happiness?
I think they've built their own life. And we've always just had like a really, again, open and communicative relationship. And so we almost like seek each other's advice in a way. So I just think it's been that, like they don't really they don't really care what I'm doing to like fulfill their own happiness. Yeah.
Good for you. Okay. So tell me how old you are.
34.
You're 34. You guys both look much younger than you are, just FYI. Yeah. So were there ever times you're a little older, were there ever times in your life you struggled with your relationship with your parents?
I think I lived at home too long after college, and I grew up in New York, so it was really hard to justify paying expensive rent when I had a place at home. But I think in some ways, my mom and I adjusted to being roommates, and that was really good. And so we both, I never had even as an adult, if I wanted to go out late, she was fine with it. So I think he made the transition pretty well.
And what are the things you think they did that made the transition well? Give other parents advice on what they might do to make that transition work.
They were very open. I think the example I like to use is that when I was younger, they never made alcohol forbidden. My parents like to occasionally have a drink, and they always let me try it. So it never became this thing that I was like, oh my God, I have to have it when I'm out. So they treated my brother and I with a lot of respect, and treated us like people who could learn. And we always had really detailed conversations at dinner. And so, I knew they were my parents, but they also didn't keep things away from us as like, you can't do that. And I think having that open, acknowledging that kids are going to be curious about things, and acknowledging that, and saying, if you want to try it, let us know and we'll try it with you, or we'll do it in a safe space. I think that made me really feel really safe talking to them about anything and not hiding stuff from them.
That's terrific. Thank you. I mean, that kind of stuff it's going to help somebody else. Thanks, guys. Okay, how many kids do you have, or two, and how old are they?
21 and 24.
And they live in the same town as you?
One is still in college and one lives in the same town.
Okay, so what do you think the challenges are of being a parent to an adult child? Are there ever times you have to bite your tongue?
Every time, every day, all the time.
Just give us a couple examples.
When they don't have the same habits as you have about being responsive to things, how they conduct themselves professionally, how they keep their homes, things that are totally inconsistent with what you taught them.
Oh, gosh, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, here we are in the streets of Prague again, and I'm with a young man from America who's about 34 years old, and a young woman from South Africa who's about 37. And they've traveled, they were telling me they've lived in Saudi Arabia, and now they've been in Prague for 5 years. So I think it's going to be really interesting to hear how their parents have dealt with this and how they've dealt with it. So let's start with the young man who's from the United States, from the Virginia area. Is that where you grew up? That's right. So tell me a little bit about this journey and how it's felt to your parents about you being away so much.
Well, so for me, it's, life is just sort of one unending adventure, always looking for like the next new place to live. And it's always been fun and exciting. But I think my parents would prefer that I lived closer to home so they could see me more often. We don't get home all that often because it's a long flight and the tickets can be expensive. And my dad is proud of it, definitely. He thinks it's fun and amusing. And I'm pretty sure my mom wishes I lived.
And how does she deal with that? Does she ever talk to you about it, or does she pretty much bite her tongue?
She tells me constantly that I should move back home.
And how does that feel to you?
It's nice, your mom loves you.
But you don't feel pressure to move back at all, or to do what she'd like you to do?
A little bit I do, and I think that you do have to wonder why you live so far from home, really. My family is all back in the United States, and there's a lot of things I miss about home, like friends and family and other parts of living in the U.S.
What advice would you give to other parents whose kids are possibly thinking about doing something like this?
Tell them exactly what you think, but they're going to do whatever they're going to do. You're not going to stop them.
And I ask a lot of young people this. You're in a relationship. You've been with this young woman for quite a few years. Would you want your parents to be honest with you if you were dating someone and they didn't approve or thought it was the wrong choice for you?
Probably wouldn't listen. I don't see that mattering.
Okay, let's go on to our next conversation here with a lovely young woman from South Africa. And you've been away from home for how long?
Since 2011.
Since 2011. Yeah. And how has your family dealt with it? Or is it more normal for kids from South Africa to travel away like this?
It's definitely more normal. It's kind of expected in a way. South Africa has many problems. So it's expected, but the first few years they kind of keep waiting for and asking, well, when are you moving back home? When are you done with this?
And how does that feel to you?
It's okay. I mean, I think it's been easy to be honest and to say, I don't know if I am. And everyone understands.
Do you think your parents struggle at all with you being so far away?
Yes, I think my mom is very sad about it. But she's also been very honest and says that if she could have done it, she would have. And she just wishes, I think, that she had her family all together in one place, really.
I think all moms sort of feel that way. And if you're ever a mom, you might feel that way too. So what advice would you give to parents of adult children whose kids might be wanting to be as adventurous as you?
To encourage and support them, I would say. To make sure that they're safe if they're traveling, especially if it's a woman alone. Make sure that they know what they're getting into and be there for them so that they feel happy to come back if if they want to come back.
And do they ever question your career choices and what your plans are? Do they worry economically for you or anything like that?
Not really. I think my mom's been very supportive.
And has confidence. You feel like she has confidence in your choices?
Yes, she's always been amazing about that.
Okay, well, thanks, guys. And this was such a pleasure, and I wish you great luck on all your next adventures, wherever you end up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So you're how old?
30.
30. And are there times in your life you wish your parents would bite their tongue?
Absolutely.
Can you tell me a couple examples, or... I want advice for other parents. That's where we're learning from this.
It's really tactful. My mom's opinion about my dog's haircut. And why does it matter for ears or too long?
And why does that bother you?
Because it makes no difference to her or to me or the happiness of the dog, and it just feels super annoying.
Okay, so are there some things that she might give you or your dad that you feel like are valuable, or is it mostly you have differing opinions?
Absolutely. I think my mom gives me. So my dad actually passed away a couple years.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
I appreciate that. My mom definitely gives me valuable advice, especially when it comes to my relationship. I'm actually first-time mom.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
So I think a lot of advice that I really value.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thanks. So just tell me first where you're from.
I'm in UK.
UK. And you were saying that you felt that respect was a really important part of having a good relationship with your adult children.
Respect and honesty.
And honesty. So I told you my podcast was Bite Your Tongue, and you said maybe that's not such a great idea because...
Because you need to be more open with your children. You need to express your feelings as well as they need to express theirs.
Absolutely right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great trip. So tell me how old you are.
22.
You're 22. So do you ever wish your parents would bite their tongue? Like, not say what their opinion is all the time. Do you ever feel judged or like, you're doing something that they wouldn't do, so they offer their opinion a little too much?
Yes, I feel like sometimes like they've gone through things that they think we're going on the same path, so they offer us their opinion, and sometimes it's like telling them to I know what I'm doing. Don't worry about it. Like, I know, I'm not supposed to do that, so you can't worry about it. But they keep on entering on into the same conversation, and it gets tiring.
Right, exactly. All right, thanks. So, tell me how old you are.
I am 28 years old.
28 years old. Are there ever times in your life you wish your parents would bite their tongue? Do they offer advice you're not ready for over and over again? Or what works? What do your parents do that create a great relationship for you?
I can't think of any times that I want them to bite their tongue. I feel like we've learned how to converse with each other at this point.
But there were times earlier?
Yeah.
And what kinds of things? Can you give me an example?
I just finished business school, like grad school. And my dad definitely didn't want me to travel as much as I did, but I kept trying to tell him it was part of the experience.
Because of COVID?
No. I was in business school before COVID.
Okay.
And but he was like, no, it's about the academics, it's about school.
Oh, I see. You weren't putting enough focus on the academics. Got it.
I graduated just fine.
Right. And so parents worry a little more than you want them to.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's the worry more than the biting your tongue.
Yeah.
How many siblings do you have?
2.
And do you feel like they're the same way with all the kids?
No. My siblings definitely wouldn't say the same.
Oh, what would they say?
Well, I'm the youngest. They think that I get special treatment.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, bye. I'm in Prague, as I've said, and I'm sitting at a dining room table with a lovely mother and her son. And we've been talking about the podcast and about sort of building healthier relationships. Oh, and their father. That's right. The father might have something to say. My husband just tapped me and said, how about the dad? Because dads sometimes don't have as much to say, but it's really important, especially with a father and a son. So we've been talking about this, and I thought this young man is so intelligent. I think he'll have a lot of interesting things to say. So he's 17. He'll be 18 in November, and he's really moving towards adulthood. What are some of the struggles you might have with your parents now, and what advice you might give other parents in terms of moving from this sort of teenage to adulthood years and helping that happen?
So recently, there has been times that that my mother said to me that we're not communicating much, that clearly there's some disconnect between what our interests, our beliefs and stuff. But I personally believe that sometimes you don't even have to like say things to have a good relationship with people. And sometimes even saying some stuff can even damage your relationship with people. I also believe that when the children confide in you with something, that you should always be supportive, whether you believe in the thing they're telling you or not, because it can build trust between the two of you and make you bond. And maybe later you can ask if that's really something you believe or something. But like you should, in the first place, you should really trust the person who's telling you.
So you're saying really listen more than anything, not always give your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think what you said about the communicating is probably true for most everyone. Because as you get older, you don't want to share everything with your parents, do you?
No, definitely not. Sometimes it's not just listen, but listen closely and attentively. Because sometimes you can just listen and like be hearing stuff, but not be listening. We have a word for this in Czech.
Understanding.
Yeah, you may be listening, but not understanding. And if you don't understand, just ask, because that's.
I think that's all good. And do you understand as the mother, well, as a mother, I'm also a mother, how hard it is when the kids start pulling away at a certain age and not sharing everything?
Well, for me, it was not surprise because I know him very well, and he has been always very introvert.
Introvert.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
So he doesn't share many feelings or his experiences. He always surprised me with many things. Like finally, what I find out was how he found there is solutions for some problems, but he never shares. I feel very bit problematic. This the thing that I am definitely different. So I am more extrovert as a Spanish character as my father. So I would like to share, I would like to talk, I would like to express myself with my feelings. So I'm the open heart, and my son is totally different. So it hurts. It hurts, but because of course person as like me is expecting that everybody, or at least your family or your son will be a little bit like you.
But it never ends up that way.
No, but I tried always not to push him,
Right.
But I just want to express. Michael knows that I told him that I would like to share more with him, but I understand and I respect that he doesn't want. What only I want that he will grow up as an honest person and to be happy in the life. So this is the main goal, I think.
You know, we've talked about this on the podcast a lot. Happy is a weird word. What is happy?
Well, to have a, good, not only job, but good friends, of course.
And what do you want?
Meet good people, also have a good experiences, because Mike, I know he loves to have experiences, but he is not describing nothing about them.
I would like to go back actually to what my mother said about me not being extroverted, which I think is not true at all.
Okay.
However, I find it that my mom always claims this statement in psychologist sessions and stuff, and I don't find it true at all, because I am not extroverted per se. However, at least what's the something in between that? It's me something verted. Never mind.
Phlegmatic.
Everything you're saying, I just want our listeners to know that I sense a lot of love.
Yeah, with friends, for example, I'm very open, always smiling, stuff like that. We have a saying in Czech Republic which says, "To speak is silver, but to be quiet is gold."
Yeah. That's why we call this podcast "Bite Your Tongue."
And sometimes I voice my opinions, and they always get shut down and stuff. So I've learned that in some groups of people, I should rather be quiet and bite my tongue.
How about you, Dad? Do you struggle with him growing up and leaving the nest?
I don't know how to say. What do you say? I think I have same problem like my wife. I like to be my son be more open for us, not just for friends.
Right.
For us.
Let me ask you both something. Were you open with your parents as much as they wanted you to be?
Not for 100%.
And you?
I never said everything.
Okay,
but I was more open heart, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I just wanted to observe the reaction of my parents when I did something or make something. So I was expecting what they will say. So,
Right.
And then it was funny for me. It was like game for me.
Right.
So I'd never care if they don't agree with me, but I was more explosive. Like more,
We don't like to be like to open everything, like just simple stuff,
But I think sometimes our generation, and you're, and about this, my kids are a little bit older, but we expect more and we forget. I felt like I was open with my parents, but only what I wanted them to know. And we were all very argumentative when we were young. It was our ideas, and I think we learn to appreciate our parents as we get older. Do you think that's true?
Yeah.
Michael, I really value what you said, because I think the most important thing you said was sometimes when you give your opinion, you get shot down. And I think what your parents will learn from this is just listen. And if it's you're basically saying, if you don't agree with it, listen, and maybe later talk about it. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For example, sometimes I notice that sometimes they get overly excited over stuff that I am not too excited about.
Can you give an example?
For example, I sing, so I do concerts. I take it as me not expressing myself nor like showing off or something. But I like to get better on my own, in my own like cubby in the classroom with the teacher. But when I go to the concerts because it's mandatory to go to at least one concert a year. And they take it as this big thing that, oh, he's singing. Or the same thing with, oh, he's playing a piano. But like I write so many texts.
You mean songs, lyrics?
No. Texts, as in like academic texts. And I join like organizations which I'm active in, which support young people in themselves, basically. So, for example, the European Youth Parliament I told you about before, it tries to empower young people to voice their minds and to be active citizens and stuff. So I am active in those organizations which I'm personally very proud of. And then I come home and I see that they do want to ask about my experiences in it, but like there's not usually a lot of experiences to point out, but just the general vibe of sessions I participate in is very like positive and
it fills you up.
Yes.
In a very positive way. And slowly they will realize that too. I think they do. Do you have anything to say to that, or should we wrap up?
He's right.
Well, thank you so much. This was so lovely, and I appreciate your sharing from your hearts this wonderful, loving family. Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome.
Well, that's a wrap. We're really anxious to know what everyone thought of this episode. Thanks so much to Connie Gorant-Fisher, our audio engineer, for taking these bits and pieces and creating something very special. I also need to let listeners know that this was going to be Ellen's last episode. She is swamped with her work and her book. I'm so grateful to her for joining me for the episode she could, and I will miss her very much. But I should throw out there, I'm looking for a new co-host. I don't want to do this on my own. So if you've got what it takes, email me at biteyourtonguepodcast@gmail.com. Remember to support us by visiting our website. And don't forget about shapermint.com, our sponsor. There's lots of bathing suits for summer. If you just use the code BITEYOURTONGUE when you check out, you get an extra 20% off. Thank you all for listening. And sometimes, as usual, you may just have to bite your tongue.